Well, can you believe it? Another project in the Wizard Shop done. And what's really rare about this, it's another YouTuber's project done. We all know YouTubers don't ever get their projects done, but I've gotten 2 done in the last couple of weeks. Let's take this for a drive and see how it does.
Let's get buckled in.
Buckle, buckle, old lap belts. Let's take this thing for a spin and see how it does. Turn on the AC. Make sure we're clear. We're moving a big boat out into the shipping lane here. Big floaty boat. Haven't driven this thing in a long time. It's cruising quite nicely. As soon as we get out on the open road out here, not in the city where we're at right now, I'll show you the cruise control. It's a really odd cruise control on this thing. See if the radio works.
Your greatest partner, you're running with 11% off everything.
Sure does. Check the 4 barrels out. Oh yeah. Very nice. Check the wipers. They work. The horn doesn't work on here because this has what's called a rim blow. The rim right here is what you push on to honk the horn, and these are always damaged on these old cars. You can get them rebuilt, but I've never messed with it. This doesn't do anything. You have to use the rim. And check how this thing goes over some uneven terrain here. You can barely even feel the transition. The Fleetwood slow ham is alive again, guys. It's not setting up on jack stands anymore. There's a wide turning radius on this thing. Okay, on this cruise control over here, it's the Price is Right wheel, just like the game show. You spin the wheel and see what you win. Well, no, not really. But you turn it to what speed you want, 50, 45, and then you turn it, make sure it's on, which it is. You click auto, then you floor it. There we go. You can feel it kind of pull the gas pedal away, and that's when you know it's engaged. So both of my feet are off the pedals, and we're cruising at 50, just like we have it set on 50 here. You can set it a little higher, turn the wheel, and it goes faster. Or you can turn it the other way, and it slows down. It's actually kind of neat, even though it's antiquated technology, but it works. That's the amazing part, it actually works. How many of these old Cadillacs you can buy, the cruise hasn't worked in years. And this one works perfectly. Very, very cool. The AC works, the heater works, the cruise works, all the power windows works, the wiper works. That's such a rarity on these old cars. Usually half of the stuff is broken. There is one thing that's not working, and that is the clock. The clock doesn't work. It's sitting there at 9:16. But that's not that big of a deal, I guess. Let's get this thing back in the shop and we'll look under the hood and talk about when I got this car, what we tried to do to it, and how we got to this point today. Got nice firm brakes, good drum brakes all the way around. Feels very nice. This was the Fleetwood Brougham, which was the highest level of Cadillac you could buy in the 60s and 70s. Really later than that too, but this has leather seats, which are not cracked in any shape or form. They are perfect. The dash has 0 cracks. It is perfect. The steering wheel does have the horn features damaged, the little wood trim ring around here. That'll have to be rebuilt at some point, but I'm probably not going to mess with that. All the wood trim is intact otherwise, and that's real wood in these years. It is not simulated wood, it's real. Veneer it is. The back seats crack free, very good shape. The upper lights in the back are both working perfectly. And look at the headliner, guys. Absolutely flawless. It's like brand new. Here's the sun visors in good shape. Even has the mirror in place. So many of these things, when you go to buy one of these old cars, these are things that strike against you. Although the headliner's down, oh, it's missing the mirror, or this is broke, or that's broke. It's not so on this car. I'm not sure what the seat belt is on the ceiling up there. It's like a side or a shoulder belt or something. I'm not sure, but I've never used it. Check out the footrests, Mrs. Wizard. Footrests, just like a Rolls Royce. This doesn't have the tray tables. Some of the older 67s and 66s had tray tables as well. But this is during the years when GM or even Lincoln could actually truly compete with Rolls Royce. They can't anymore. They don't even hold a candle to them, sadly. But back in these days, they did. This is true American 1960s luxury. This is the year that they landed on the moon, 1969. Super nice car. Wow, Mrs. Wizard, you seem so far away.
I am. This thing is wide. This thing is so long. It's insane. I have to get so far away just to get the whole thing in.
It's a huge car. Before we go under the hood, I wanted to give a little recap. I got this thing probably, about a year ago, Mrs. Wizard?
Yeah.
And the cylinder heads, the valves were bad on it. It was running really bad. And I thought, you know what? I want to do something really cool. I'm going to put an old 5.7 liter 350 diesel, the old Oldsmobile diesels that blew head gaskets all the time. I got an engine for really cheap with blown head gaskets, imagine that. And I put ARP head studs on it and new head gaskets, the upgraded head gaskets. And I was going to put this in here, but as we got the engine into the vehicle, as so many times happens when you do engine swaps, is I saw that I was going to have to start hacksawing and cutting the frame and cutting cross members. And that's when I told Junior Met, who has done most of this work, I said, stop. We're not going to hack up this car. It's too nice. We're not going to cut stuff and weld and box the frame. We're not going to do that. I said, pull the old diesel out. We're going to fix the 472 gas engine and put it back in and bring it back to its former glory. And that's what we've done here. I took the cylinder heads to Martin Machine in Wichita. That's the only machine shop that I trust in the area to work on Ferraris, Lamborghinis, Porsche heads, Cadillacs, whatever. He does it all. He does very good work. I had him rebuild these heads, new hardened valve seats, new guides, seals, everything. Resurfaced. And now it idles smooth. It runs smooth. As you heard when we went on the drive, it really runs good now. I'm glad that we decided to go back with its original engine because it's as it was back in 1969. The only difference is I did not go with the Quadrajet carburetor because they're so difficult to set up. Really, you need an old timer, an old guy that knows those things. And I probably could have figured it out, but I don't want to spend so much time on that. The Edelbrock 850 that I have on here has 2 screws. It's easy to adjust. And as you heard, it works perfectly. The 4 barrels kick in. Everything works great on this. Let's take a look under the hood and see what it looks like now. Now on these older cars, you don't have to go pull the hood latch under the dash. It's right here. And there it is, all painted up and nice. You can see the Edelbrock carburetor with electric choke peeking under the air cleaner. We used the stock air cleaner. It's got new cap, rotor, plugs, wires. The AC's been recharged. It has a new brake master cylinder. Nice new alternator. A new voltage regulator and a new heater valve. Those things were getting kind of worn out. Decided to just go ahead and replace them so it's reliable. Just 2 years prior to this model, which is a 67, and I've actually had an old 67, they had the 429 Cadillac, which is a derivative of the 390, and that goes back to the 331. You can just keep going back and back and back. In 68, they came out with the 472, which is what this is, and that eventually evolved to the 500. Huge, huge engines. This is a 472, and it is the high compression engine, which means I have to run high octane fuel, or it'll ping and knock under acceleration, and when you turn it off, it'll diesel and make noises, all because it's not high enough octane. This is 10.5 to 1, and that I've had it resurfaced and everything is probably, it could be 10.6 to 1 or something, a little higher than that. So you have to run 91 or 93 octane in this thing. You cannot run 87, it's bad. 87 is what's common around here. In some states and high elevations you can actually get 85 and 83. The 87 is what's common around here. That's what most everybody uses in their cars.
Will ethanol make a difference in this car?
Yes. Most 91, 93 octanes are ethanol free, usually. Make sure you check if you have one of these older cars. Ethanol is not good for carburetors. We just got the engine nice and hot. And if we had ethanol fuel, 10%, 15%, whatever you want to run, sitting in the carburetor right now, heat soaking, you could literally hear it boiling, the gas in the fuel bowls. I know, I've experienced it. You can hear it. It sounds like, kind of like a sound like that. And what that's doing is just evaporating the ethanol gas out of your carburetor.
Wow, Car Racer, that kind of sounds like that old 8-in tractor we used to have.
Yeah, if we worked it too hard out in the field, it would actually start boiling the fuel, and it bucked and jerked and run out of fuel. As soon as we switched to ethanol-free fuel, that problem went completely away. Carburetors do not like ethanol fuel. Just like I mentioned a minute ago, the fuel will boil out of the carburetors. You're in the store, you're shopping, you're getting groceries, and you come out to your car and it's just crank, 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 crank to get it to start, because it has to fill the fuel bowls all over again because it evaporated all out. So that's what you run into with ethanol. And if it's really hot outside, it can start bucking and jerking and boiling the gas while you're driving. No ethanol in these old cars. This would be during the years of leaded gas, and that actually lubricated the valves and things of that nature. That's why they didn't have hardened valve seats back then. They didn't need it. The leaded gas had lead to lubricate all that. But when they went to unleaded, it caused the problems that we had on this engine. The valves wouldn't seal anymore. It actually eroded the valve seats. But that's been solved now. Hardened valve seats, that's been taken care of. This big module you see right here, that is the cruise control. That's how they did cruise control back in those days. There's a servo inside of there that will move this arm and move the gas pedal forward or backwards, whatever is needed. Speedometer cables come in and out of here. There's no electronic signal for speed. It actually uses mechanical speed observance. It observes the speed mechanically. Here we have the heater hoses, which go to the heater core, which is inside of this box. For those of you that just watched the video I did on the heater core and how expensive and crazy it was on that old Subaru, this would have been during the days when you could just remove this cover within an hour and have your heater core out and back in with a new one, back together. I don't know why they can't do that today. It would have been really nice if they could. It'd be cheaper for you guys and easier for me. But unfortunately, that's not what we have. Let's take a look around the car before we close it out and let you see the beauty of this thing. And there is a few flaws. I'll show you some of the flaws. Let's take a look around this car. It's got fairly new tires on it. It's got the original dog dish wheel covers, which look really nice. This little hole right here, several people have asked me about that. It would be for a parade. They could push in a little flag, a pennant. There's no dents on this body. There's no serious rust anywhere except for right here on the hardtop. It's not bad. It's still solid under there, but you can see tiny bubbling around the edges. This is the original top, and other than that, it's in good shape. I'm not going to rip this off and tear it all up. So I'm not going to tear this all up. I'm going to leave it as is for now. The next person, as this moves on down the line, because I plan on selling it, can have this removed and redone if they want. The paint on this is fair. It's faded in a lot of places, and it's got dust on it from sitting for so long. But these have the 69 only year called the lantern tail lights. They look like little lanterns. 68 did not have that. 70 did not have that. Only 69, and they look really cool. They're like lanterns on a wagon or something. We can look inside the giant trunk. It has some bottles and things from the last guy who owned it. I haven't even cleaned it out yet, but there's the original manuals, original service records. Everything's there. Whoever owned it before me spilled oil or something all over the service records. They're still legible. They're still usable, but they're kind of oily. There's the original spare that looks like it had a blowout at some point. That tire's no good anymore. Look at that, guys. There is very minimal surface rust. But otherwise, solid trunk pan. That itself is very rare on these old Cadillacs. The 67 I actually had, you could stand in the middle. There was no metal left. I had to fix it. I had got it fixed and put new metal in it, but I've looked at several of these over the years when I've looked to buy one. Every single time the trunk pan was rotted out. This one is not. It's solid as the day it was new. That's a huge plus. And we'll go look down this side. There's usually huge rust bubbles along here, but there's not on this car. It is in very good shape. It has been repainted in the past white. It was originally white, but it has been repainted. I think that's why it's so somewhat faded. Someone could buff it with rubbing compound and bring the shine back if they wanted to. No dents, no huge rust holes. Actually, no rust holes. And there is one thing missing in the grille. Right here. Just a small little stack of fins is missing. That's it. And this is during the years that you don't have yellowed headlights. They're glass, standard circle headlights like they all had. When you took one of these cars back in the day to the mechanic to have it worked on, they didn't go grab for their scan tool. There was no scan tools. Well, kind of. There actually was a scan tool back in the day. This is actually something that Hoovie bought for me. You can see it in one of his previous videos where he gives it to me as a gift. But it is a Sears Automotive Analyzer. This would have been from the 70s or 80s. You can check the condensers, spark output, high ohms, low ohms, 32 volt, 3 volt, alternator, points, RPM, dwell. Using all these little switches and knobs. And in the back, there's the manual. And all the little wiring and connectors and things to use with this. It's sitting on its original base, the styrofoam base. I don't think it's ever been used, not even for 10 minutes. I think it's brand new, like new. So in today's world, when you bring an Audi or a Chevy or whatever into the shop with a misfire, an engine misfire, the first thing the mechanic does is go grab his scan tool and he heads for the dash, underneath the dash to plug in his scan tool. Back then, what the mechanic would have done is pop the hood and wheeled this thing on over and started hooking up all the different wires to the ignition coil or spark plug wires or different things. And he would have gotten his answer that way. So it kind of is a scan tool, but it doesn't, there's no computer to communicate with. You get the data yourself with the wires and all the settings and things on this little tool. I'm very, very excited that this thing's back on the road again. Oh, I can see the little diesel badges there on the dash that somebody gave me a while back when we were going to make this a diesel. We're not, so I'll probably just keep those around for some other project. It kind of reminds me, I have that engine and it's going to be a good running engine. I don't know, maybe I will put it into something a lot simpler to put in someday. That might be a future video. But again, I'm very glad that this thing's back on the road. Everything works. It rides so nice. But I'm probably not going to keep it. So I'm going to finish a few things. We got a few more loose ends to tie up on here. There's an exhaust hanger that needs replaced and a few really small items. And I'm going to clean this up, make it really nice, and put it for sale. No, you're not going to buy it for $1,500. It's probably going to be more like $11,000. So I'm glad you guys could follow along. Some of you have been following on this car from the get-go, and now you can see a completed project. If you're curious what kind of tools we use to do this job, or Junior Mint did, because he did most of the work, check the links below and the Amazon affiliates link. That's a lot of the tools that I use in the shop. And if you haven't hit the subscribe button already, I suggest you do that now. We've got many, many more cool projects and videos to come. Thanks for watching.